Students are lecture for this particular topic, so be enthusiastic to listen everything from the core of your heart, dear students. So last but not the least, today we have to look at the concluding part of this story. So I hope you will listen very carefully. So let us start. Page 54, line by line explanation. We look at micro recap of our previous lecture. Story was about to be over. And magician had converted fragrance of that particular animal into worst kind of smell because Roger Skunk's mother was demanding that. So mother had instructed wizard, and you must have listened that particular point that she had hit that wizard heart. And immediately she had demanded that this particular line in a very sincere way. And his mommy went home and they hear woo woo, and it was the choo choo train bringing Daddy Skunk home from Boston. So already these two words woo choo highlighting the sound of train. I think very clear so far as these two words are concerned, woo and choo choo. I think very clear. Because Roger Skunk's father was about to come home from Boston. I've already told you yesterday also in my first lecture also, Boston is a city of United States of America. And they had lima beans, celery, liver, mashed potatoes, and pie oh my for death. So look at this beautiful sentence. It highlights that they had taken very fine meal. So basic reason was that mother of Roger Skunk was extremely happy to look at her child in the same state. Very clear, there is no doubt in that. So if we look at this Lima, lima beans, it is beans of white color. Celery, you have to look at things, these are leaves. Liver, here highlights part of animal. I think very clear. Mashed potatoes, very clear. Pie or my for that. Taken very fine meal. So number of, I think, varieties are there in that particular meal because on that particular day mother was extremely happy. Why was mother happy? Because conversion of same kind of smell was there for her child. Very clear. And when Roger Skunk was in bed, Mommy Skunk came up and hugged him and said he smelled like her little baby skunk again. And she loved him very much. And that's the end of the story. Look at these two sentences. And when Roger Skunk was in bed, after taking meal, Roger Skunk was about to sleep. I think very clear so far as this particular sentence is concerned. And while he was about to sleep, his mother came and she hugged him and said he smelled like her little baby skunk again. Was extremely happy. She was extremely delighted. So that is why she had expressed her happiness by hugging her child. And she had added that he smelled like her little baby. Wanted to express that she was extremely happy because his smell is same. Very clear. While Roger's skunk was with original smell, mother was very happy. So that is why she had shown her emotions by hugging that animal and by just highlighting a few words that he smelled like her little baby skunk again. And she loved him very much. She had also added that she loved him means Roger's skunk from the core of her heart. Her mother wanted to highlight that particular point that she was extremely happy and she loved him very much. I think very clear there is no requirement of any further explanation so far as these words are concerned. And that's the end of the story. The father had announced that that was the end of the story. Very clear up to this particular point. Now the story was over. Father had announced that particular point. Jack had announced that particular point. That story was over. Now just look at action and reaction of that particular little girl. Joe, but daddy, look at the query. She wanted to just interrupt again by highlighting these words, but daddy, just look at the response of Jack. What? He wanted to make inquiry that what she wanted. Then other little animals run away. Just look at the query of that small girl. Even after the end of that particular story. And did the other little animals run away? She was just looking at the things at a very different level. Because she was a child. She was a small child. Just look at her query. This query is quite emotional. She wanted to inquire from her father, then did the other little animals run away? If the little animal of forest ran away to look at that particular Roger's skunk, she wanted to make a query of that particular point. I think very clear up to this particular point. No, because eventually they got used to the way he was and didn't mind it at all. Father was replying in very different order. He had replied in negative. He said no. Because eventually they got used to the way he was and didn't mind it at all. He wanted to at that particular point, he wanted to just reply the query of that girl in a very positive order. So that is why he had just highlighted that eventually means finally, they got used to the way he was. Other animals used to get the way he was. He was just used to be with him. They had stopped hating that animal due to his worst kind of smell because they got used to that negative smell. I think very clear and didn't mind it at all. And they had not minded it at all. They had not taken that particular smell in a negative way. Just look at father's response. It's very different. Very different. Because here he wanted to positive expression. I think very clear. He was just giving his expression in affirmative or positive. so that that girl shouldn't be upset. I think very clear so far as this particular sentence is concerned. Now, before moving forward, just look at this question. What is the question? Read and find out. I think you are able to look at such type of questions in a keen order. So far as every chapter is concerned, such type of question you will see. And here you will have to look at this particular question in a very different order. What is the question? What do you think was Joe's problem? I think question is very clear. What do you think was Joe's problem? So here the readers will have to answer by using their wisdom in a proper way. So just look at the answer. I think Joe didn't like that Mommy's skunk should get worst kind of smell again. Very clear up to this particular point. She didn't like that the Mommy's skunk should force that wizard to convert that particular animal into wrong kind of smell. That was Joe's problem. I think very clear, there is no doubt in that. Let us move. Then did the other animals run away? I think you are able to look at this particular part. The father replied in negative by highlighting different kind of words. That other animals became used to that wrong kind of smell, and they used to play with that particular animal without looking at that negative smell. Very clear. Conversion of father's mind. Why? Because he wanted to convert the mindset of that girl. What's eventuality? Just look at it. What is it? Look at these words. The query of that small girl. Joe. What is the query? Just listen this. Eventuality. Here, she was mispronouncing this word, that is eventually. She was not able to understand this word eventually. So that is why she was mispronouncing this word eventually. I think very clear up to this particular point. This actual word is this eventually. There is no doubt in that. You are very clear. In a little while, that was a stupid mommy. Very clear up to this particular point. In a little while, after a few moments, she again asked, it was a stupid mommy. She had just highlighted this word that mommy was really a nonsense mommy, idiot mommy, stupid mommy, because she never liked that wrong kind of smell of that animal which used to irritate that animal. So that is why she was highlighting these points. Now look at the response of Jack. It was not, he said, with rare emphasis, and believed from her expression that she realized he was defending his own mother to her, or something as old. Now just look at the next. Now I want you to put your big heavy head in the pillow and have a good long nap. Just look at these two sentences first. It was not. Mother was just opposing that particular point. What was the point? She wanted to highlight the point that Roger Skunk's mom was idiot mom. But here, Jack was opposing that particular point, he said, with rare emphasis, with great stress, He had just highlighted that particular point that mom of Roger Skunk was not stupid at all. Emphasis means stress and believed from her expression. I think very clear up to this particular point. There's no doubt in that she had highlighted that particular, I think, reply. Jack had highlighted that particular reply in a very different order because he wanted to oppose that particular point that mother of Roger Skunk was idiot. She would never accept that particular point. Very clear. So, from her expression, that she realized he was defending his own mother to her, or something as old. I think very clear up to this particular point from her expression. From the expression of that little girl, that she realized he was defending his own mother to her, or something as old. The father was recognizing that particular fact, that that girl was able to recognize that particular point, that by highlighting this particular point, that mother was not stupid mother. He wanted to defend his own mother. That was the feeling of father. He was feeling like that. It's very clear. Now just look at the thing, or something as old. What I think you are able to look at the point, the something which was not acceptable at all by that particular girl. She was considering that particular point, that mother was really an idiot mother who had taken the happiness of that particular child for her own benefit. But it was not that. If we look at this particular point in a sincere way, she wanted to make her child safe and sound. She wanted to make her child secure. For the sake of safety of her child, she had taken the action in that particular way. But the girl was not mature girl, so that is why she was not able to recognize the fact. Now I want you to put your big heavy head in the pillow and have a good long nap. Basic purpose of narrating the story was Jack always wanted that girl must take a nap in a distance, in a very different way, in a unique way, in a very different way. But on the contrary, she was not able to look at it. So that is why the father was instructing that girl that she must put her big heavy head in the pillow and she must take a very fine nap. Just look at the instruction of father here. He adjusted the shade so not even a crack of the day showed. Just look at the beauty of this particular sentence. If we look at this sentence, we are very clear. He here means Jack. Adjusted the shade so not even a crack of the day showed, and tiptoed to the door in the pretense that she was already asleep. But the actions and reactions of Jack here. He had adjusted the curtains of that window. He had adjusted the curtains of the window of his bedroom. Shade here means curtains, so that she could be able to sleep in a good way in darkness, so that no ray of light should enter in that particular room. Just look at the next section of that father, and tiptoed to the door. Just look at the beauty of this word, tiptoe. That particular fellow, Jack, tiptoed means walked cautiously to the door in the pretense that she was already asleep. Note down the meaning of this word, pretense. Prettense. Means to show that something is true. Was just posing like that as that girl was in sleepy order. So that is why he had walked to the door silently. Tiptoed is silent walk. I think very clear. Clear up to this particular point. Vigilant walk. Vigilant here means silent. Because he wanted to just make a show of that particular point that that girl was in sleepy order. I think very clear up to this particular point, there's no doubt in that. But when he turned, she was crouching on the top of the covers and staring at him. But when he had returned, Jack was able to observe the point. What was the point? Joe was crouching on the top of the covers. Crouch is crawling on the top of the covers of that Jack. I think very clear. Hey, get under the covers and fall fast asleep. Bobby's asleep. Her father was again instructing that girl to be sleepy. Very clear. Hey, get under the covers. She was crouching on the top of the covers, so that is why the father had instructed that girl to that she must get under the covers and she must fall fast asleep like Bobby is asleep. Bobby, his son was already in sleepy order. He was younger to Joe. So same instruction was given by Jack to Joe that she must fall in fast asleep. She must be in sleepy order. Bobby is asleep, I think very clear. Bobby was already in sleepy order. Was taking his nap in a very fine order. Very clear. She stood up and bounced gingerly on the springs. Daddy, look at this particular line. She stood up. On the contrary, she stood up instead of just following the instruction of Jack. She acted and reacted in a very different way. She stood up and she bounced gingerly. Bounced means jumped. Gingerly means carefully. On the springs. Springs here means you have to note it down. Means if we look at mattress. Springs here means mattress. I think very clear. MATTRESS. Father had already given the instruction that the girl must feel comfortable and must take nap in a very fine order. But on the contrary, that girl stood up and started jumping carefully on the mattress. Mattress is here because springs. I think you are able to look at singular and plural. Very clear. Now just she was again interrupting her father, Daddy. The father was replying by highlighting this WH family word. What? Tomorrow, I want you to tell me the story that wizard took that magic wand and hit that mom. Her plump arms chopped forcefully right over the head. Just look at the instruction of that girl. He was giving instruction to her father at this particular moment. saying, Dad, tomorrow, if we look at the next day, she wanted him to tell her the story that that magician had taken that magic wand and hit that mom. I think very clear up to this particular point, there is no doubt in that. Her plump arms chopped forcefully right over the head. Was just acting and reacting in a very different order. These particular words are highlighting her overreactions. She was just overreacting. She was just looking at the dramatic pose by just moving her arms in a very different way. I think very clear up to this particular point. She was adding dramatic, I think, episode here by acting and reacting in a very different order. I think you are very clear. She was just instructing her father that tomorrow means the next day, she would like to listen the story that wizard had taken that magic wand, that magic stick, and hit that mommy. Very clear up to this particular point. She was acting and reacting very differently while she had said this particular sentence. No, that's not the story. The father was replying in negative. He was saying, no, not at all. That was not the part of story. The point is that the little skunk loved his mommy more than he loved all the other little animals, and she knew what was right. Just look at this amazing sentence, dear students. Jack wanted to highlight that particular point that the little skunk used to love his mommy more than he loved all the other little animals. Very clear up to this particular point. And Roger Skunk was 100% sure that actions and reactions of mom are 100% appropriate, right. She knew what was right. And very clear. Here, just look at the beauty of this sentence. I think you are able to recognize the deep meaning of this particular sentence. The father had highlighted that particular sentence that Roger Skunk used to love his mommy from the core of his heart. And for him, all the other creatures were not as important as the instruction of his mother. And he was 100% sure that her mother was 100% right. She was able to look at what was right and what was wrong for her child. I think very clear. No, tomorrow you say he hit that mommy. Highlighting that particular point in a very different way. No, Dad, the next day, Jack must tell her the story that mommy was attacked by that wizard. Do it. Just instructing her father again. She kicked her legs up and sat down on the bed with a great heave and complaint of springs, as she had done hundreds of times before. She was just acting and reacting in a very different way. Overreaction. So I think very clear. She kicked her legs up and sat down on the bed with a great heave and complaint of springs, as she had done hundreds of times before, except that this time she didn't laugh. Earlier, while she used to overreact, she used to laugh, and this time no smile or no laugh was seen on the face of that girl. Say it, Daddy. She was just again requesting her father to say yes Yes, for what? That he would surely tell her the story which would highlight the episode that wizard had hit that particular mom on her head. Well, we will see. She was not able to compromise at that particular moment. She was repeating the same instruction time and again. So that is why just look at the reply of father. Well, we will see. Thank you. Okay, they will see. Now at least have a rest. Wanted to instruct that she must take a nap at least. Stay on the bed. You are a good girl. Very clear. There is no doubt for the explanation of this sentence. He closed the door and went downstairs. Had closed the door and he had went down. Jack had went down. Claire had spread the newspapers and opened the paint can, and wearing an old shirt of his on the top of her maternity smock, was stroking the chair rail with a dipped brush. So I think you are able to recognize this fact. Clear, wife of Jack and mother of Joe, was just busy in painting. She had spread the newspaper, she had opened the paint can, and was wearing an old shirt of his. She had worn the old shirt of Jack. His here means Jack. On the top of her maternity smoke. Just note down the meaning of maternity smoke. It is a loose dress for pregnant women. I think very clear up to this particular point. Was stroking the chair rail. She was just painting chair rail, sides of chair with a dipped brush. I think very clear. Above him, footsteps vibrated. And above him here means above Jack. Footsteps vibrated. And he called John, shall I come up there and spank you? The footsteps hesitated. She wanted to follow. She here means Joe wanted to follow her father. So that is why able to look at the footsteps. Vibration of footsteps was heard by that father. So that is why he had spoken like that. John, if he would come up there and give a big slap. Spank means give a big slap. Slap. Slap with open hand. The footsteps hesitated. The girl was just able to look at that particular, I think, sentence in a very different way. So that is why vibration of footstep was little bit, I think, in deactivated order. I think very clear. That was a long story, Claire said. Now just look at the words of Claire. Claire had just added the words by highlighting that particular point that was really, I think, a very long story. A poor kid, he answered. It was highlighting that particular point that girl, poor kid means Joe was not satisfied the last moment of the story, even at the last moment of the story. And with utter weariness, watched his wife labor. Utter weariness means he was just feeling exhausted. Very clear. He had watched his wife labor. Wife labor means Claire was just working very hard. She was painting at that particular stage while she was about to bear a baby. Being very clear. The woodwork, a cage of moldings and rails and baseboards all around them was half old, tan and half new ivory, and he felt caught in an ugly middle position. And though he as well as felt his wife's presence in the cage with him. He didn't want to speak with her, work with her, touch her, anything. Just look at the beauty of this sentence. All around Claire, the woodwork. Number of items were there. Number of, I think, items of furniture were seen, because she was just painting the furniture of drawing room of her house. Now look at the meaning of, look at was half old tan. Old tan means sickly brown color, pale brown color, and half new ivory. Just look at the meaning of this. Half new ivory, you have to look at. It means basically relaxing color, calming and relaxing color. One was, I think, brown color. One was new ivory, means calm and relaxing color, just like, I think, silver. And he felt caught in an ugly middle position, where Jack was in very different kind of position. He was overexhausted, so that is why he never wanted to act and react. Though as well felt his wife's presence, no doubt at that moment wife was in front of him, but he was feeling like a cage. He didn't want to speak with her, work with her, touch her, anything, because he was overexcited. Now, dear students, I think you are able to look at this particular story in a very decent way. Now look at the two queries we had raised at the beginning of the chapter. Why this particular title is in interrogative? Should wizard hit mommy? I had already told you that one query was, if we look at the first theme, are parents always right? Yes, of course. Parents are